This activity we would do normally in class, but it's done at home on my YouTube video, and you can look at it on by following the link on the lesson plan. This slide shows a picture of the demonstration whenever I cut up the paper plate, and on the left you see basically the paper plate and area, and then we cut the plate in half and then cut it into eighths and figured out the area for a circle is pi r squared, and on the right you see another picture of that. I think the most important thing to note on this slide is the fact that when you're measuring circumference, you use a string, like the red string that you can see in the picture. And when you're measuring area, you're using squares. So basically, if you were measuring the circumference of this plate in miles, it would be 18.84 miles if you walked around the plate. But if you covered the plate with these little squares that you see here, these little cubes, it would take 28 squares to cover it, and that would represent 28 square miles. So for this slide, we're going to look at some examples of finding area of a circle. On the first one here, number 1, we are given the area of a circle, or we're given the radius, and we have to find the area of a circle. So I'm going to draw the radius. The radius is 3 meters. And our area of a circle formula is pi r squared. So it is pi times 3 meters squared, which will be pi times 9 square meters, which is 9 pi square meters. So in other words, if we covered that circle with squares, we would have 9 pi of them. And if you put 9 times pi in your calculator, you'll get 28.27 square meters. So if I covered that circle with squares, there would be 28 and another piece of a square. Now the second problem is a little different. In the second problem, you were given the diameter is 10 feet. So this is the diameter, which is 10 feet. So if the diameter is 10 feet, then the radius is half of that. Here's the radius, which is going to be 5 feet. So the diameter is double the radius. So our formula for area of a circle is pi times the radius squared, which is pi times 5 feet squared, which is going to be 5 times 5, 25 pi square feet. And if we put it in our calculator, 25 times pi will be 78.54 square feet. So basically, if I covered that circle with squares, there would be 78.5 squares. Now remember, this is different from covering that or measuring the outside of the circle, which is the circumference. So that you use a string, and for area, you use squares. For this problem, we're given the circumference of a circle, and we have to find the area. So circumference means, and it says it's approximately 28 miles. So if you walked around the outside edge of this circle, you would have walked 28 miles. But area is if you covered every square mile of this circle. You walked every square mile. How many square miles is that? That is what area is. So we have to figure that out. The formula for area is pi times the radius, or pi r squared. So we need to figure out the radius of this circle, and all we know for now is circumference. Well, we know circumference is 9 pi miles. And we also know circumference is pi times the diameter. So if we cross out pi on each side, we can see that 9 is the diameter. So the distance across, ooh, that was bad. Let me erase that. Okay. The distance of the diameter is 9 miles, which means the radius is half of that. The radius is this part, so it's 4.5 miles. So for our area, now that we know the radius, our area is pi times 4.5 miles quantity squared, which is pi. 4.5 is the same as 9/2 miles squared, which is going to be pi times 9 times 9 is 81. 2 times 2 is 4. We have square miles. So our answer is 81 pi over 4 square miles. If I put that in my calculator, I will get 63.62 square miles. So the answer is 63.62 square miles. By the way, if you do not like fractions, that is totally fine. You could have taken this formula right here and put that in your calculator as is and still gotten the answer down here of 63.62 square miles. So if you cover this circle with squares, it will have 63.62 mile squares in it. Okay, so we are going to use quizzes for our homework. It is a free online system that you can use for any grade, really. The first step you need to do is click on the link and sign up for our class. And make sure to use your name and email that I'll recognize. And in there, you will see a quiz or an assignment titled Circles Part 1 and 2 for circumference. And you can do that by the due date. All right. Let me know if you have any issues.